Galloway's Tech Talk at 3. Neil Barnfather from Goodmaps.
Welcome everybody to Galloway's Tech Talk at 3. It's great to be joined by Neil Barnfather from Goodmaps. How are we doing, Neil?
All is good, thank you very much, and
Excellent.
I hope the same for everyone there.
Yeah, excellent. We've also got Jenny as well. Jenny White. You okay,
Afternoon.
Jenny?
Are we all good?
We're all
Yes,
good.
thanks.
We're all good. Excellent. So, Neil, it's great to have you join us today, and I know you've got a very interesting story about Goodmaps, and we've had plenty of chats over this, and it's actually really exciting technology, and it's great to invite you today to come and talk to us about the future of Goodmaps. And what it's all about. I think there'll be lots of people in the room today that it might be the first time they've heard about Goodmaps as well. Yeah, we're really interested to find out more, and over to you.
Thank you. Well, it's great to be here. It's good to be talking about what we're doing and what the technology offers. I'll perhaps start with a little bit of history, just to sort of explain how we got where we are, and then move into a little bit about what we're doing with the technology. So Goodmaps was initially created from the American Printing House for the Blind. For those of you who are not familiar with that organization, it's a sort of RNIB equivalent out in the US. They, in 2019, gave their innovation team the challenge of helping blind and partially sighted people navigate in the indoors environment, something which previously has been either impossible unless you had specific route familiarization or indeed good O&M skills and you felt comfortable. But even then, there was still a lot of hit and miss in that process. Or indeed, if there was very expensive, cumbersome infrastructure installed by way of Bluetooth beacons and other things, they wanted a solution that was beacon-free and that could literally be deployed in a location, and then a blind person could navigate in that space. A solution was dreamt up, and that has become Goodmaps. The solution subsequently is rolled out across the US. They've got locations now spanning east to west coast. We've ventured into Canada, and a little over a year ago, I was brought on board to bring the product to Europe. So that's what I'm doing. In the European market, we've got a plentiful supply of corporate clients who have deployed the solution into their environments for use by their employees and by visitors to those spaces. And we're now beginning to make headway in what you would traditionally call public spaces, where anyone can go and utilize the solution. The bit that's really exciting to me is Goodmaps is an example of where technology evolved for our community, the blind and visually impaired or partially sighted, however you want to phrase it, community, is being utilized by mainstream society at large. And this is a real revelation to us that a solution that was specifically geared around helping us get around was actually being used by sighted people, by people, moving bulky pieces of equipment around in buildings and needing step-free access to do that, by a whole raft of people that there was an unintended use case for. And we had genuinely no expectation that that would be the case. So Goodmaps has evolved to service not only the needs of people who are experiencing some degree of sight loss through to people who are unfamiliar with a building and just need to get around it. So the use case is incredibly broad and incredibly diverse. We have accessibility built into our DNA. It's literally been there from day one. So it's always going to be an accessibility tool. But importantly, we've evolved to the point at which we're able to facilitate and assist anyone within the indoor environment. So specifically, what sort of is interesting is if one imagines, really, we've had satellite navigation, GPS, for in excess of 25 plus years now. We're all very, very familiar with the idea of being able to pull a phone out of our pockets, use Google Maps, Apple Maps, and indeed use very specific targeted blind products either on those phones, Blind Square being one, and a whole series of other options. But whatever device you're using, whether it's a phone, whether it's a Braille sense or any of those types of products, and using GPS on those, the biggest problem is that they get you to what euphemistically might be called the door of the building. And even that's a happy days. That's a wow, I've actually arrived, and it said you are here, and the door is here. Quite often though, they actually get you to a building and sort of announce you're here, when actually the reality is you're simply within the vicinity. So what's the Goodmaps difference? The Goodmaps difference, and by the way, I should stress at this point, because I keep being told by our product people, and it's a very truthful point, Goodmaps is the company name, and we tend to often find that people will switch company names with product names. So the app that end users use is called Goodmaps Explore, and so people often quite unintentionally just simply say, oh, have you got Goodmaps? And what they're specifically meaning is the app. So what happens in our environment is that your destination, in fact, is something within the building rather than the building itself. And provided the building has been mapped by one of our technicians, you can receive point-to-point, turn-by-turn directions within that building directly to where you want to go. So in a hospital environment, your destination might be the X-ray department. It might be some form of, I don't know, maternity ward. It could be the eye clinic. Whatever it might be, not a problem at all. What happens is you'll arrive at the hospital building. The app will say, are you wanting to navigate inside this building? Say yes. And then there's a search facility, search within the app for the department or the item you're looking for. So that literally could be, I want the reception desk in ophthalmology, and off you go. The app will provide turn-by-turn directions right to the specific location. In an office environment, you'll have all the meeting rooms labeled, you'll have the offices labeled, and you'll be able to navigate in that space in the same way. In a train station, ticket lines, queues, barriers, we might have the wide access gate labeled up, escalators, lifts, etc. And this allows for what we say is the evolution of navigation to an autonomous level, where you can go somewhere and say, I'm going to deal with this location on my own, just using my guide dog, just using my cane, and being given directions and able to actually engage with this environment on my own. And that in essence is the concept. That's where it came from, and that's what we're doing. Before I move on to the how we do it, I'll just pause for a minute and let anyone ask anything that they'd like to perhaps ask about the sort of history and the use cases, perhaps. This is when Andrew panics and goes, I've got to unmute people.
Can you hear me now, Neil?
I sure can.
Here we go.
You even have to unmute yourself.
I know, yeah. I thought my space bar was working for the unmute, but it wasn't. It's really, I really like something you were saying earlier on about kind of this technology kind of becoming more mainstream. And I think that's something we're seeing a lot now in the sector. There are certain technologies and companies where you look at the technology and you think, actually, this is fantastic for blind and partially sighted people, but it's also got other use case scenarios as well. Blind people, visually impaired people, we're not the only people that get lost in a hospital.
Exactly.
Or get lost in a shopping centre and go down the wrong aisle. I mean, there's
absolutely
plenty. That's happened to me plenty of times, and happens to my friends plenty of times. So, I think that's partly one of the keys to making technologies a success, is being able to get a bit of that mainstream there, because that kind of boosts it injects it injects that the monetization into the products and makes them more mainstream, so that they can develop more and so that technologies don't disappear, because we've seen that over the years. I think
yes,
with great technologies that have been out there, but they've not been kind of marketed in the right way.
I think the big problem is we need to be honest with ourselves, and this is this is unfortunate to an extreme, in many cases, but we are a niche community. Evolutions of bespoke niche technology costs a lot of money to develop. They cost a lot of money to deploy, and this is why we see things like Braille notes and things costing a lot of money to purchase.
Yeah.
So and I'm not here to debate the morality of that situation. In an ideal world, why should we pay more for a writing aid? A sighted person go grab a bag of biros, for goodness sake, for £2. We have to buy a Braille product that costs thousands. But just taking a cold look at it from and looking at the economics, I do understand how that happens. So the issue from our perspective in this context, just simply looking at navigation, is if you want to make a use case to a location, to a venue, and say you should have a method of allowing people to navigate your indoor space, and we've got one, but it's only available and beneficial to the blindness community, that's one economic proposition. And then if you turn around and say, well, actually, it's for every single person that visits your location, that's a very different proposition for them. And if we can ensure that buildings are made inclusive, and by de facto that standard is accessible, we win, but also so does society. And that's got to be a good thing.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, you knew exactly how to talk about that. I don't know. I was going around the houses a little bit, but
it's I think the truth is that it's very difficult. These conversations are very emotive, aren't they? And people sometimes can be very let's be honest about this. We all get very jaded about it. We've all bought very expensive adaptive technologies over the years. We've all come face to face with that situation where we need to buy something that's going to cost us 1,000 times the product price that someone sighted would have to pay. And it is damn frustrating. It is really frustrating, and it would be wonderful if everything was usable by our community all at once, in line with mainstream society. We are mainstream society. We are part of it, right? So if society wants to get real and talk about inclusion and equality and all these things, we need to be ensuring that technologies that are deployed to help everyone do help everyone. And
absolutely, yeah.
And that's what's been really amazing for me about watching. When I got this job, I genuinely honestly thought that the easy wins were going to be the public transport sectors, the hospitals, all these sorts of public environments, and the hard sell was going to be the corporates. Well, why do we need navigation solutions? Why do we need it? And it's been the absolute opposite. Corporate organizations biting our arm off. This is a known problem for those guys. They absolutely, need it. And it's amazing to me the number of public organizations who have come back to us and said, and you're sort of like, really? But you're in the public sector. Why? How is this not an absolute no-brainer? And it's really been quite distressing, frankly, sometimes. Some of the rail operators, very specific, we offer sighted guide, it's meet and assist. That's independence. And you're sort of like, no, it's not. It's us being treated like a piece of cargo, dropped off by a taxi. Then the next person picks us up and carries us into the station, and then puts us on the train and plonks us in a seat and says, "Do not move. You will stay right here." And then at the other end, someone picks you up off the other end, and so forth. You might as well have gone in a box, via parcel force or something.
It makes me laugh that I do laugh because when they say do not move on the train, I'm really scared of. I know this is my stop. And I really, really don't want to just carry on sitting here because, what could possibly happen is I get left on the train and I end up going somewhere else. So I always get off anyway.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Of course you do. And it's the same thing. You go to a hotel or something, you check in and you're the one with the dog. Uh-oh. And then, right, if the fire alarm goes off, don't leave your room. Stay there and we'll come. I'm like, no, I want to get out. I'm out of here. So it's kind of like, but I think we owe it to ourselves to have that sense of reality about, encouraging and helping organizations over the line is about making a common sense for them and helping them with the economic arguments. But certainly, trying to explain to people, I've really felt this incredible journey over the last year or so of educating organizations between the word independence and autonomy. And autonomy is what, a person has when they can rock up to a train station or any other environment and just get on with it themselves without, to all intents and purposes, no one has been involved in that journey, save maybe the person selling them the ticket, the person checking at the barrier, and the driver on the train, But they haven't had to involve any additional services. They haven't been told, oh, I'm really sorry, you've arrived less than or within 10 minutes of the departing train. Therefore, ergo, you can't go and get it. Well, yeah, but the train's literally there. I can reach out to, no. You're one of the disabled people.
Yeah. Everybody else can turn up with 2 minutes to go and just jump on
Bingo.
the train. Yeah.
Exactly. But no. And, that's the difference between what they consider independence, I don't, but what we can all agree is autonomy. And but it is saddening to me the severe lack of public facing organizations and that have really run with the gauntlets. So there you go. So there's the political rant over with. I shall climb down from my little soapbox about that because it's an immense. I mean, frankly, what is interesting though is if you look at it from the point of view of employment opportunities and such, the knowledge that you might go to an employer in a year's time and that building is no longer quite so anxiety ridden for you on your first day. We're already feeling as blind people that we're going to be judged, we've got to outperform, and we've got to demonstrate that we add value. You've got all that going on at the same time as feeling this need to justify the fact they gave you a job. And then suddenly it's like, welcome to head office. It's 17 stories tall and there's 50,000 million square feet per, and all the rest of it. And you're thinking, actually, excuse me, I need the toilet. Can someone take me to the? And you're like, oh my God, I look like I'm 3 years old. So, I think that the ability for an organization to say that this makes part of their ED&I policy, that they're putting this sort of technology in, really speaks volumes. And it's incredibly encouraging to me to see organizations going with it on that basis.
I think the ability to be able those kind of things everybody takes for granted is finding the toilet in a pub or in a restaurant, which is my pet hate, which is having to always ask somebody to take me there.
And there's that horrified look on their face, isn't there? It's like, I'm only asking you for directions.
Yeah. Or I do like to try and go myself, and if I can see it or if I can find it. But I think to be able to use a bit of technology or to use the Goodmaps app to kind of give you those directions to that, to be independent, is kind of is a dream really. That's kind of what I would look at. So tell us a little bit more about
how does it work?
How does it work?
Let's do it.
And what needs to happen to make it work as well?
So so the first situation is what we would consider a venue owner. So they're our customers. So whether that's a shopping mall, whether that's a train station, a train operating company, whether that's a corporate entity, a local authority, whatever, come to us and say, we would like to have our location or locations, venues mapped. We obviously go through the sales process with them. The first stage of actually making this all happen is we send in someone, a technician who maps the venue. The mapping process is conducted. We've probably all heard of LiDAR now. LiDAR, it's a buzz phrase these days. Basically, it's
on your iPhone Pro phones now, isn't it? You've got your LiDAR sensor.
It's on the 12 and the 13. That's absolutely right. So this is an industrial scaled up version of what you got there. So basically, it's using lasers to measure an environment in a 360-degree context. Obviously, LiDAR on the phone is very much point and shoot. So you'll get a measurement ahead of you, but not in that 360-degree method. So from the LiDAR aspect of the backpack scan, we get a complete 360-degree model of the environment. We also take high-resolution geo-referenced images throughout the building, which are images that contain the XYZ location as we were moving through the space. That's then ran through a machine learning algorithm, which converts all of those images into pure and simple geometric formations. It's highlighting the things that don't structurally change in the frame. That removes anything that's personal or private in that picture. So one of the things we often get asked by organizations is, we're gonna have to like sweep all the desks, kind of documents lying around, and we're like, no. All of that's stripped out the minute we plug it into the system. All we're interested in is door frames, window frames, flat planes of walls, that sort of thing. They're the geometric formations. From there, we label everything up. So, this is Andrew's office. You might put Andrew's position in the organization, so forth. It might be a meeting room. You put some additional information. It's got an oval table with 6 seats and some audio visual equipment. You might label that it's a reception desk in a ophthalmology department. Maybe there's a button to press to open the door to get out. One of those sorts of deals. Which side's it on? How high up the wall is it? Etc. All this detail can go into the map. The maps are as detailed or as lacking in detail as the organization want. Once that's happened, the customer reviews, make sure they're happy. They can have levels of authenticated areas. So the building can either be totally public, meaning anyone can visit it, anyone can access that map. You can virtually explore it, which is a major benefit to our community particularly. So to be able to walk around a building in advance to get your bearings and understand what's where and that sort of idea. Right through to the entire building can be hidden, so literally it will not appear in the public version of Goodmaps Explore to unauthenticated users, and right through to the middle ground. So if it was, say, an office building, you might have the reception and disabled toilets and stuff like that at the beginning public, and then bits on the other side of the reception will be hidden, only available to authenticated users. The end user, the person walking around that space, uses an iOS or Android app called Goodmaps Explore. And for a blind user, that's accessed by holding your phone in a upright position, relatively speaking, just ahead of you. You're not like walking around with it stuck out 5 foot in front of you, or it doesn't have to be at head height or anything else. I literally hold my phone pretty much just above waist height. I don't make any special effort to do it. That is the way it is. It's not some grotesque maneuver. It's not particularly obvious. I'm not making some as if I'm filming everyone as I'm walking around or anything. And the app takes images every 5 seconds. They're very low resolution. So this is, again, privacy and security. Unlike the scan, which had high resolution, these are very low resolution. You can't identify people from it. You can't identify writing, that sort of thing. All we're, again, looking for is marrying it up against the architectural detail in the image. That then tells us where you are, and from there, we use the onboard sensors on the device to determine that you've turned direction, that you've walked a certain distance, and then we correct for that any drift in those sensors by taking another image, as I say, every 5 seconds and saying, okay, you're actually here. Yep, we thought you were, great. Or, oh, no, we've got a bit of drift here, and we fix it. And from that, we're able to determine, once we know where you are, of course, we can tell you how to get somewhere else. So it is pretty straightforward. To a blind user, the free methods of being told what to do are text on the screen. If you're visually impaired and you want to read it, there's obviously it's all voiceover and talkback compatible, and finally the app is also self-voicing. So we have a narrated screen reading process within the app. So if you weren't using voiceover or talkback, but you still wanted some form of verbiage, the app will announce things to you of its own synthesizer. And that's it from a blind person's perspective. That's what's going on.
That's quite good, that, because again, we're talking about it's not just for blind and partially sighted people. And I suppose if someone's walking around a building and trying to find their way, they don't want to be like we always moan about people walking around with their mobile phone and not looking where they're going.
Yeah.
So,
well, if
having that voice there.
Yeah, the sighted experience, as we would perhaps, we in our group here might want to consider it, the experience that we would be less interested in has a 2-dimensional map, which appears on the screen, and a dot to indicate where they are, and a line demonstrating which way they need to walk. And in that experience, they can lift the phone, it identifies where they are, and they drop that back down to a level position then. and just when they've walked effectively the distance on the map to the edge of the map, they relift the phone, it redraws the map, putting the dot back at the middle. So in a shopping mall or something, for example, you get those little kiosks, don't you? There's sort of, you are here. And the big problem is, of course, you can't pick that up and walk it around with you. So in essence, it's providing that function. So the sighted experience is variously different in that context, that it's not quite an experience which requires the 5-second picture calls, because we don't need that level of accuracy for a sighted person. A sighted person can look around, make the extrapolation, say, okay, I'm in the mall, okay, it says I'm here, yes, I am here because I can see those shops, I can see that position, I know I'm there. And then they walk and it goes, okay, I should be turning left at Starbucks. Oh, look, there's Starbucks. Yeah, great. Okay, I turn left. You know what I mean? And they do that extrapolation. So the sighted person, generally speaking, isn't looking for turn-by-turn directions. They're just looking for a guide, if you will. They're looking for that reassurance that they're heading in the right direction.
I love the fact that you go to the mall, Neil.
Sorry, do you know something? There's so many. Do you know? I have
hey
to
man,
stop.
you go in the mall.
Y'all going on the escalator, elevator? It happens so often now, and my wife is like, "It's a lift. It's not an elevator."
It's not an elevator. No.
And I'm like, I'm sorry, I've just spent the entire day talking to someone about an elevator.
No, it's instantly, like, we
The
go
shopping centre.
That's the one. That'll do. Yeah, the shopping centre. Instantly, you kind of go into more detail, and it makes me think. I love. There's lots of technologies out there now. Lots of different things. We talk about. We've had other technologies come on the Tech Talk. I'm sure that you'll be aware of things like Navi Lens,
yeah,
and things like that. And I don't know about you, but I see these two technologies would be two of my favorites if they were incorporated into shopping center or maybe a supermarket, because it's okay you're finding a Navi Lens on a box of Cocoa Pops, but how do you find that the aisle?
Right, exactly.
First place.
Yes,
so
you
may get there with Goodmaps.
and without wanting to steal any thunder whatsoever, but next week we will be announcing our first retail grocery partnership with a British retail chain who are rolling out in their stores. So
wow, that's amazing. So is that going to be in all their stores or some?
So day one, they're doing a quote unquote pilot or trial store, which unfortunately isn't in your neck of the woods. But I think the excitement of the possibility and the potential, this is the time to start making noise, and frankly to celebrate and pat these people on the back. You know, this is an organization that are actually saying, they did not ask, what is the economics around this? What is the return on investment, or any of those questions? They said, we want to do this because this is the right thing to do. And when it's announced, I definitely think that this is the kind of thing that, instead of like going, well, it's only, yes, it is in one store, because quite rightly they want to try it, make sure it works, make sure it adds, some form of enhancement to the customer experience. But it's the time to be going, oh my goodness, this is absolutely brilliant. Getting lots of good social, commentary and all the rest of it, and saying this would be amazing and we would love to see it in all locations. And that is very much their intention. They just need to see that it actually works, and that's quite justifiable, isn't it? So,
absolutely.
But I'm very much like the railway situation. Excuse me, my phone is going at exactly the same wrong time. And I don't even know how to stop the thing, which is just horrendous. You can still hear me okay, can't you?
Oh, we can, yeah.
Right. I'm just going to let it keep going and it'll go away in a minute. I think that the interesting thing for us has been, we've been working with most of the rail organizations have been very much, we're not in a position, we don't think so, we're not sure, and government messaging around travel and just a load of nonsense, frankly. One train operating company took a totally different approach, very upfront, very absolutely wanting to make sure this happens. And they have mapped a line, a railway line, that all the stations on that line, east to west. The west side of it is much more in your neck of the woods. They'll again be publicly announcing next week, at the end of next week, and that is an amazing commitment. Again, no grants from the government, no anything else. This is private organisations saying we want to offer this to people, and you start looking at that and saying, so on the assumption that where you were going. So, let's pretend your journey involved that one of those railway stations, you live near one of those, and you were going somewhere else, and that involved one of those other stations, and you could actually map door to door and have fully accessible point-to-point navigation on your journey. No need to book assistance, no need to ask for help, off you go. And I think that's absolutely amazing, frankly, and really to be commended. And when it is announced, etc., I again think that we should be absolutely commending and saying bravo to these organisations. Not a thank you per se, but just actually well done. It's not, we're not here to be saying, oh, finally you've recognised our access rights and needs, because frankly the technology didn't exist before. So what were they supposed to do? But now the technology exists and it's available, they should all be doing it. And I'm really looking forward to announcing these two particular strategic partners, one in the rail industry and one in the grocery retail sector, because I think that is two organisations that are demonstrating a real commitment.
Absolutely. What do you reckon, Jenny? Do you fancy doing your week shop with me?
I figured out the train company.
Yeah.
Well, the train company do function in your neck of the woods, and it won't be such a huge ordeal for you guys to trial. And I've gone along. I've been doing the piloting at the stations to make sure everything's ready and rocking and rolling, and it is a really. I mean, I haven't been to a railway station before that I've been able to autonomously navigate, save ones that I've got previous experience with. And it is quite something to arrive at a station and literally do what you want to do. I mean, I actually had a terrible journey getting up there. And when I got there, I texted and said, oh, I'm here finally. Where are you? Oh, we're sitting in, one of these cafe shops. And I said, I'm on my way. And I went along and I popped in the door and there they all are. And they're like, ah! And I'm like, made it, ding. And, and there was this bizarre moment where I said, pick somewhere, anywhere you want in the station. I went, oh, we'll go platform 2. And platform 2 involved, 2 sets of escalators, ticket barriers, blah, blah, blah. We went all the way down to platform 2 and they actually were bouncing up and down. There was high fives, there was hugs, you name it, because it works. Cool.
Yeah,
the technology works.
Will that work outdoors as well, Neil? If you're at a station outdoors?
No. So this is just one of those things, right? So from a marketing point of view, we say GPS is outdoors, our solution is indoors. That's actually a misdemeanor, because when you say indoors, you think, well, a lot of platforms are outdoors, aren't they? So I prefer to say Goodmaps Explore is for the built environment, but it's just not so sexy, is it? Outdoors, built environments. It just sounds a bit, like I'm some kind of architect, doesn't it? So,
but I mean, if you were using, say, Crewe train station, shall we say, where you've got multiple platforms,
I'm very familiar with it. Yeah.
Yeah, some of them are undercover, some of them, platform 3A is outside the covers and. Things like
it works if there's no problem. There's no problem at all. So basically, as long as we've scanned it, we could scan a football ground for whatever. The indoors is a misdemeanor. It's actually
don't be telling
inaccuracy.
Andrew that with his football stadium.
you get me a football stadium, we'll scan it, no problemo. I have approached the entire Premier League with all their vast financial resources, bearing in mind the benefit. You look at like COVID, we want to get everyone back to games, but we need one-way systems. What better way of introducing a one-way system than having an active map that can direct people around the stadium? None of these stupid little sticky arrows on the floor that no one can see.
Actually, it's a really good point. That I was going to that gives me another question. I'm challenging you now, Neil. In a football stadium when it's full.
I
was at the match last night, and you can't
So
move.
there was 20 people, right, at the one you went to?
There was it was a full game. So when you go into the concourse, you know,
his stadium's got a concourse. Look at that.
Yeah, in Anfield. So when you go into the concourse, you can't move.
Yeah.
You know, you literally, it's a sea of people. How would Goodmaps cope with that? With that many people around?
The truth is, there's always going to be, the technology does rely on that camera locking onto your position at step one, and beyond that, you know, it's not essential. So although we're taking that picture every 5 seconds, we need a clear picture. We ordinarily say, I think it's every 2 minutes, we want a picture just to validate definitively where you are. We take them every 5 seconds, just in, you know, in hope we're going to get one, because that resets that 2-minute timer. At the end of the 2 minutes, we don't stop the navigation. We just simply flag to you. We are beginning to lose confidence that we 100% know where you are, but it doesn't mean the route will stop. So the reality is, if you want to stand in your sea of you know, supporters, you may need to lift the phone marginally up or point it slightly up, and you know, and we're hoping that we're going to get that position from that. Cool. But so if you go up to a wall and you stand there facing a wall, it's going to go, I'm looking at brickwork. You could be looking at any one of 20 million bricks that made this place up. I don't know where you are. So, you know, the same would be true if you're looking at someone's back, you know. Yeah. Well, I can't see. We need to see architectural features, which is why we take the picture every 5 seconds, and we'll tell you during that process, when we're first locking onto your location, you know, if we don't immediately lock on, we'll say, you know, move around, start walking, get cracking, you know, and that moving around could be anything. It depends on how comfortable you feel. If you feel comfortable to start moving, physically walking in a direction, you could do that. It could be, though, literally standing. I don't literally turn in a circle like some Wally. I literally use my phone, and I'm sort of doing this almost like I'm taking a panoramic picture, you know, and it'll just suddenly go, and it's got you. It's found you. So it does depend, though.
I think me and Jenny will be making a bit of a trip soon. We'll go and do our weekly shop wherever this trials taking place.
You won't want to buy ice cream or anything, because it's a bit of a trek for you.
I was thinking that we'll just have to get we'll just have to be in a cool box and avoid frozen products. But that does excite me. It does excite me, though, that to be able to walk around a supermarket.
I do think the key thing to stress here is, right,
Louise is still not letting you do it.
No. I get lost.
I think the important thing is this: we're not suggesting that a blind person at this stage is going to be able to walk along the aisle, and if you're looking for Heinz baked beans, other banks of baked beans are available. We are going to get you to the tin goods items, and within, provided the map has the detail, we're going to get you to where the baked beans are. You know, we'll keep walking. It's on your left here. You turn left, and there's obviously, you know, 5-6 shelves high, and within that 1 or so meter of width, the Heinz baked beans are there. Yeah. Now, how does the blind person tackle that? That's where, you know, there are different challenges that are in existence, because we're not actually going to have your hand, you know, put your hand out in front of you. Beep, 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 beep. You know, it's not like that. It's just that's not where we are with the technology today.
Hey mate, can you give us a hand here? Do you know where the beans are?
And I think you got it. I think the point is, so I don't think this replaces your weekly shop, but obviously, if the grocery store has a bakery, a pharmacy, or any of those sorts of bits where there's a manned bod behind the counter, you know, you can go to those bits and find those. Yeah. If they move customer services, you can go and find that. The cafe, no problem. The toilets, all of that. And importantly, here's the thing. So in the demonstration we've done for that store, where I went in, I met them, and I said to them, "Oh, you know, name me a product," and they were like. And anyway, we picked up a bottle of wine, as you do. And I bobbed off to the wine aisle, got along to the Chilean section, you know. I think I recounted this, Andrew, to you, so forgive me now. And by being at the relevant Chile bottles of red, I was able to ask another customer right there, "Excuse me, would you mind?" Yeah, no problem. Oh, you go. Right, lovely. Within a couple of minutes, I'm back at the counter. Bottle in hand. They were absolutely gobsmacked. And of course, the point is this: if you're looking for your bottle of red wine, you're not going to ask someone buying nappies, "Excuse me, I know I'm not in the right place, but can you?" Because they're going to go like, you know, and they might take the pity card and go, yeah, come on, love, I'll take you around and get you some wine, Alco, you know. But they're it is suddenly now suggesting that all blind people want to buy alcohol or something, isn't it? But you know, you've got a much higher chance of getting someone, member of public, who's happy to give you that 2 seconds of assistance if you're in the right place.
Listen, Neil, I always remember the day I came home with alcohol-free beer, and I was extremely disappointed when I opened the bottle. I tasted it. I thought, this does not taste right. And then I looked at it and I was like, oh, it's alcohol-free.
Yeah, that's a pretty big disappointment. But I mean, I think the important thing is, though, you know, if you're after your prescription from the supermarket or pharmacy, and you're after a fresh loaf of bread, etc., you're going to get this sorted, you know. And you know, from the point of view of the sort of mainstream integration, and I mean, from a visually impaired point of view, here's the bit that we're looking towards. So where the technology is going, though, is you'll be able to walk down the aisle and say you're looking for Heinz baked beans, and you've never seen a tin of baked beans in your whole life, and you know you've been asked by a family member, can you go, you know, oh my god, what are they? Not only are we going to get you to the correct aisle, but we're going to drag in a picture from the online catalog, and we're going to show you what the product looks like. So now you're standing in front of 5-6 shelves high by about 1 meter odd wide, and you actually got a picture of what you're looking for. Now you can find it. So you know, the sighted user, the visually impaired users, got a massive heads up over the top of where they were before.
There's also, and me thinking this, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, there's also other apps out there that you may want to then use when you get to that point. So you may want to use Be My Eyes or Ira or something like that. Yeah,
absolutely. And I mean, the bottom line is, look, if I'm being completely and utterly transparently honest, I'm way too lazy as a human being to do that. Like, you know, a weekly shop for a fully sighted, able-bodied individual is probably going to take them 45 minutes, an hour. If you want to go around as a blind person doing that, you're probably, even if you used Ira or Be My Eyes or something, you're probably going to be an hour and a half to 2 hours. But the point is choice, the right to do it, and the ability.
It?
Absolutely, it makes me want to go in there and just do it for the sake of, like, I haven't independently, quote unquote, I haven't autonomously shopped for myself and actually gone off and physically picked my own products up since 97, 98, somewhere around there, maybe 99, somewhere in that sort of ilk, you know. So 20 years down the line, you know, the ability to do that, you know, is mind-blowing.
Well, I think even if somebody takes you around the shop and helps you pick items up, it's not, and you also feel like you're on their time, and you can't take your time on what you want to
and
look
you
at.
Feel guilty, don't you? You walk in, you go up to the customer service station, you go, I just need one thing. Oh, no problem, love, we'll be with you in 20 minutes. You just got to get Sally off checkout number 7. Boom, boom, you know, and it's like, you know, blind customer, and you know, everyone, you're like, oh my god, can the floor eat me up? And you feel like, you know, you're like, I've
been there, I know exactly how you feel. Yeah, I know exactly.
And you feel like you're taking their time up, and they're like, oh no, and you're like, I'm so sorry, no, it's absolutely fine, because all blind people are deaf, of course, you know. and so it's kind of like, you know, the ability to do this on your Todd. You just can't, it's amazing. And I actually can't tell you how liberating it is to go to those railway stations, to do those walks, to go to these office buildings. I mean, the first time we deployed at an office block in the UK, I went to that office building. I'd never been there in my whole life. I had no idea what to expect. We went in, and they allocated someone from facilities management to show us around. You know, it's like secure, and you know, you're not allowed to walk on your own, of course. So she goes to me, she says, so what is all this? And I'm like, oh, it's this app, it lets you do this. And she's like, wow, really? And you could almost feel her eyes widening, and like, wow. And you know, this is a big old building. And she was like, so what does it do? And I said, look, I'll do exactly what we've done in all the other locations. You name the place in the building we're going to go to. I've got no knowledge of this building whatsoever, other than the fact I've walked through the door, I've met you, I don't know anything about this place. She named somewhere in the building. We got for 2 hours. Everywhere we went, we asked someone else in that space where we got to name somewhere we would arbitrarily go. And I'm independently walking this building by myself with her in tow. And I've replicated that building after building, space after space. You know, guide dog must think I'm absolutely gone bonkers. But, you know, it is.
I know, you poor guide dog.
The dog does get a bit like, you know, because guide dogs, they like a destination. And you're like, You're like, well, I've got you here. Why aren't we sitting down? Why aren't we talking to these people? They're just telling us somewhere else. Oh, for goodness sake, they want me to go somewhere else. What is this? You can clock up like 10,000 steps in one building, just, but it is astounding. It is absolutely like, instead of like, I need to go to the toilet. Can you tell me where the nearest disabled is, and all that awkward, like, you just like, oh, excuse me for a minute, I'll be back in a moment. And you've just nearest toilets, and the app tells you where the nearest toilet is, and off you go. Boom, done. And and you don't even have to like, no, sorry, that's the regular ones. I've got a great big Labrador with me. I need the disabled ones. Where's? Oh, you've got, and So the ability to do those things on your own is astounding, and it's great.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Neil. We'll get you back on again. Maybe in a couple of months' time, we'll get another update from you, see how things are going on. That would be
fabulous.
Great.
Yeah, I really look forward to it, and hopefully by then you guys will have had a chance to try it out.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Thank you.